Very good morning, it's Penyuwal, the black pen, Usiba, Ulunsundu, Siba Lumnyama, Penyuwal, the sword pen, Huyamura. One of the topics that I'm really passionate about is building the cornerstones of a great society and community. So many of us are caught in the fantasies and the complexities and the debates and the discussions around nations. My country, who is the president? Who is the king? Who is my leader? Do we have democracy? Do we have something else? Do we have a dictatorship? Have we been overtaken by a military coup, as has happened in Burkina Faso, in Niger, and others? But the reality for me, I realize, is if we want to build a great nation, if we want to build a great continent, world, it starts with the cornerstones of any society. And the cornerstones are you as the individual and your self-leadership. And then it has to do with your family. And then after your family, then it has to do with the small community around you. And if you can build yourself into something really, really special and amazing and build a great body under penalism and build a great mind under penalism, and then from there, build a great family structure, and then go out into the community, it becomes so much easier to build a great nation. You could find yourself living in some of the greatest spaces on earth, in first world countries, in China, in the United States of America, in Germany, in Japan. But you might find that you are overweight. You might find that you're not really intellectually bright. You might find that you're poor and struggling. There are people living in Dubai. There are people living in New York. There are people living in Tokyo. There are people living in Paris that are struggling and poor because as much as the nation is great, they themselves and their families are not great. Now, a lot of people believe that the cornerstone to a great society, a great community is marriage. So a man and a woman must get married and have their children within a marriage space. And then from there, everything follows, of which marriage for me is one of three things. Either it is religious, which means you are Christian, you are Muslim, you are Jewish, and you go and get married under religious pretext, or you are cultural, where you follow a Zulu, Xhosa, Tswana culture, and then you get married in that way. Or the third one is the legal, which is the one that dominates today, where a man and a woman come together legally, they sign under home affairs or whatever state security system or social security system that you have in your nation. And then from there, they manage the assets that you guys have or accumulate. They manage the money and the finances, and they manage the children should you guys ever split. Now, businesstech.co.za released an article on the 4th of August 2023. They've got the author here. I just want to get to the bottom. They've got the author here as, come on. The author is Anthony Diala, the director for the Center of Legal Integration in Africa, the University of the Western Cape. This article was first published by The Conversation. So Anthony Diala wrote this article. It is published on Business Tech. It was originally on The Conversation, 4th of August 2023. I'm raising this conversation because it is something I'm passionate about. I am personally no longer pro-marriage because I believe we've lost the essence and the substance of what marriage was supposed to be. And I believe the foundation of religious, cultural, and even legal marriages has lost its essence as the world changes, with women empowerment, with men struggling, with men no longer being providers, with women being breadwinners, with people no longer following culture the way it was meant to, with people no longer really following religious prescriptions as they're supposed to. I find that marriage ends up causing more destruction than good. But the marriage laws are constantly changing, and this article highlights some of the potential changes that are going to be coming. New marriage laws for South Africa, what it means for life partners and unmarried couples living together. South Africa is changing its marriage law to recognize all types of intimate partnerships, irrespective of gender, sexual orientation, or religious, cultural, and other beliefs. The Department of Home Affairs has invited public comment on the draft Marriage Bill 2022. The bill amends some marriage laws and prescribes what's required for marriages to be considered valid, forms of registration, and the property consequences of marriage. As the preamble shows, it seeks to promote liberal values of equality, non-discrimination, human dignity, and freedom of thought. So Home Affairs have invited public comment. So it's very important that you go on the internet now, find out about the draft marriage bill of 2022 and find out how you can raise your voice and what channels you can use to say, I agree, I disagree, these are my suggestions, etc. Not too many South Africans are involved politically in the setting of the laws, but there are channels for us to comment and to fight and to disagree and to suggest so that we can be involved actively in how our world functions. While it is innovative for bringing all forms of intimate partnerships under one piece of legislation, the bill raises thorny questions. Liberalism or openness to different behavior, opinions, or new ideas is a strange beast. It pushes accepted conduct to its limits. For instance, if the bill truly seeks equity, why does it not recognize intimate partnerships such as cohabitation? Why does Section 22(6) criminalize marriage between people who are related to each other by adoption or by blood to certain degrees? So what it's saying here is that people that are related via adoption, which means there's no blood, apparently are not allowed to be married. And these are some of the things that can be challenged and questioned. And people that are related by blood to certain degrees, there are people in this country, culturally, religiously, who get married to their first or their second cousins. I've researched these issues, notably as a member of the Advisory Committee on Matrimonial Property of the South African Law Reform Commission. I believe that even though the bill promotes important constitutional values, it does not sufficiently reflect changing social and economic conditions. Specifically, it ignores polyandry, marriage of a woman to more than one man, and unmarried partnerships. This is significant because other laws recognize civil unions, which include formalized marriage-like partnerships of same-sex couples. So polygamy is where one person has more than one married partner. Polygyny is where a man has more than one wife. Polyandry is where a woman has more than one husband. And it seems like polyandry, where the woman has more than one husband, is not recognized under the law. The thorny issues. Firstly, radical socio-economic changes require society to re-evaluate traditional assumptions about accepted forms of relationships. Due to urbanization and the interaction of different cultures, relationships such as cohabitation and polyandry are rising. A couple could live together for reasons such as exorbitant rent, distance to workplaces, and prohibitively high bride wealth, in brackets Ilobola, a bride price, a dowry. The bill doesn't recognize such intimate partnerships, which the Constitutional Court has accorded the same legal status as formal marriages. As the court has acknowledged, unmarried partnerships have serious implications for finances, human dignity, property ownership, and child custody. Secondly, the marriage bill defines Ilobola as property in cash or in kind, which a prospective husband or the head of his family undertakes to give to the head of the prospective wife's family in consideration of a customary marriage. This implies that only traditionally male family heads can receive it. The definition does not anticipate a role for women, as happens amongst the Galule Orma or Galole Orma people of northeastern Kenya. Also, the position of family head could be disputed where the mother is divorced and raised the bride alone. So single mothers now have to go and call their brothers or some uncles that were not involved in the child's life to come and accept Ilobolo or Intlaulo, etc. What is interesting for me in this article is Anthony doesn't raise up the idea of women now paying Ilobolo for the man in a space where we speak about gender equality. He wants the single mom or the mom who's the head of the family to be involved, but he doesn't speak about the idea where the woman who is getting married is more powerful than her groom, her man, and maybe she should be looking to pay Ilobolo. These become the conversations we're meant to be having. However, I'll tell you this from personal experience. There are a lot of families which still recognize certain women, Rakhadis, Omkabai in families who have very, very important roles. And again, these conversations must be held where people say Africans oppressed and looked at women as second-class citizens, and that's not true. A lot of people believed Africa back in the day was quite matriarchal. Often women actually owned the land and the property, and the men would work, and the Rakhadis and the Mkabais would be the ones that would spearhead a lot of the leadership decisions in the family. As far back as 1997, the Transvaal High Court ruled that the bride's mother could negotiate and receive Ilobolo. The bill should therefore redefine bride wealth as money, property, or anything of value given by the groom or his family to the bride's family in consideration of marriage, and or to symbolize a union between the groom and the bride's families. And to me, it cannot just be about the groom if we are going to be progressive. We need to look at the bride as well. This definition is consistent with the decreasing role of the extended family in the education or raising of the bride. Uncles and aunts should not benefit from bride wealth if they do not assist in raising the bride. Thirdly, the bill is silent on the coexistence of a civil law marriage with a customary or religious marriage. For reasons like legal certainty and communal respect, double marriage is common. Previously, if a couple in a civil marriage subsequently concluded a customary or religious marriage, the state regarded the latter marriage as invalid. What this means in simple English is that if you get married legally and sign, then if you go and get married customarily and get a second wife, a third wife customarily, those marriages would be invalid. It's one of the fights that was held in the Zulu monarch, where King Zwelithini, who has passed on, got married to his first wife under civil and then got the rest of his wives under customary. And the first wife had taken it to court to say that my marriage is the only valid one. Therefore, the other children should not be recognized as heirs. I should have rights to the property, etc., etc. It is said that under traditional law, under Induna, under the king of the Zulus, they still have to reference Roman Dutch law and go to these courts to discuss what are meant to be traditional matters. The bill creates ambiguity because it does not stipulate the fate of a subsequent customary or religious marriage. This could affect inheritance, property, and child custody because legal systems may govern these issues differently. You find some of your children that were not born in wedlock. You find some of your children that were born under a religious customary marriage, or maybe you weren't even married. They get discriminated against when it's time to share your assets and your wealth when you've passed on as a man. Furthermore, the bill defines polygamous marriage as a marriage in which a male spouse has more than one spouse at the same time. This patriarchal definition does not promote equality. It implies that a woman should not marry more than one man. And I want to raise this for Anthony, that he raises the inequality argument here with polyandry, but he doesn't raise the equality argument when it comes to Ilobola. He is fine with the man paying, or the groom and his family paying for the woman, the bride, and her towards the bride and her family, but he doesn't raise the inconsistency and inequality of saying, but why is the woman not allowed to pay Ilobola as well? Again, these are conversations we're meant to have. As society, these are sadly conversations that the custodians of culture, the kings and the chiefs, are not pushing, and they'll end up being steamrolled by the constitution, steamrolled by legal minds who studied in some of these schools, and it won't come from the people on the ground. Finally, the bill imposes an omnibus standard for divorce on all marriages. This standard may complicate divorce under Islamic and customary law where the standard is relaxed. Also, section 21(1) of the bill states that a marriage may be dissolved by the continuous unconsciousness of one of the spouses without specifying how long a spouse must be unconscious following an injury, for example. So someone in a coma, the continuous unconsciousness of one spouse, the marriage may be dissolved, but it doesn't prescribe how long must this person be unconscious for, must be in a coma for. If the thorny issues in the bill are not addressed, the eventual legislation could be challenged as discriminatory. Its amendment would then drain the public purse. A balancing act. Significantly, the bill emerged from the 2022 white paper on marriages and life partnerships. The advisory committee that worked on the Single Marriage Statute Project 144 proposed two options for regulating life partnerships in its discussion paper. These are a protected relationships bill and a recognition and registration of marriages and life partnerships bill. It appears Home Affairs did not add life partnerships to the bill because it is controversial, but legislative avoidance is unhelpful because it postpones inevitable problems. The Constitutional Court recognizes the right of a woman in a life partnership to inherit or claim maintenance from her deceased partner's estate. We saw this matter coming up with the passing of the late Ricky Rick with his partner, his life partner, Bianca Naidu. They never got married customarily. They never got married under civil. However, she wanted to be the executor or executrix of the estate, and she was finally awarded that, luckily, because Ricky Rick's family was supportive of that. but legally she was not covered, even as a life partner. Ultimately, new forms of relationships demand legislative recognition. Law reform should be carefully handled to ensure that non-discriminatory cultural and religious practices are respected. The bill should strike a balance between preserving these practices, promoting liberal values, and recognizing the evolving realities of contemporary relationships. BusinessTech.co.za, written by Anthony Diala, the Director for the Center of Legal Integration in Africa at the University of the Western Cape. Again, it was initially published in The Conversation, 4th of August 2023, and the heading, New Marriage Laws for South Africa, what it means for life partners and unmarried couples living together. We've got a situation now where the World Bank has said they will not be funding Uganda because I believe the leader there, Museveni, they have put in law the criminalization of homosexual unions, etc., etc. That is something that the president has put in. We are not sure if it is something that the people they want. South Africa is much more liberal. However, there are people in South Africa who support places like Uganda and other parts of Africa where homosexuality is a crime and is not allowed. Now, I'm raising this because, again, the Department of Home Affairs has encouraged the public to comment. And if you guys do not raise these things on social media, on Twitter, on YouTube, on TikTok, if you are not coming together to sign petitions and writing to Parliament, writing to the Minister of Home Affairs, Aaron Motsoaledi, the government and some of the groups that are pro some of these things will go and enact these things as the law, and then you will be upset. But you will be upset having never raised your voice. There are certain homophobic people in this country. There are certain people that are racist in this country. There are certain people that are tribalist in this country. There are certain people that are xenophobic in this country. And those people, whether you believe they are right or wrong, it is their beliefs, whether they hide behind religion, whether they hide behind culture. It is their beliefs, and it is incumbent upon them to raise their voices and to say, culturally, traditionally, we do not believe in this. Religiously, we do not believe in this. As far as our family morals, we do not believe in this. And they must raise their voice so that the Constitution can protect them when the time arises. So that if someone within their community is doing something against their community, maybe it could be a 50-year-old man marrying an 18-year-old girl, and in their community they say 50-year-old men cannot marry young girls. They can go and get constitutional remedial action to say that if these people want to get married, it must be outside our community. If these people want to practice some of these beliefs and customs, it must be outside of our community, and we want our community to be respected and represented as well. I do not believe in marriage because I think it makes a lot of money for lawyers. A lot of lawyers are sharks, especially divorce lawyers. I believe it destroys the family unit, and I think more and more people need to have honest conversations about what type of societies are we trying to create, what type of family structures are we trying to create. And again, when we speak about equality, where women are empowered, they don't need a man to dictate where they can go at any given time. A husband does not allow or disallow his wife from studying further, does not allow or disallow his wife from going to pursue a certain career. The woman has rights, but why is this not transcended and being copied and pasted into tradition, into culture, into religion? Now, a lot of people want to pick and choose what suits them. I'm a Christian, I'm an empowered woman, a feminist. However, I still expect a man to pay Ilobola for me. Those are contradictory beliefs, and people need to be sure of what it is that they stand for so that they are not contradicting each other. You go and you date so many people and you sleep with so many people, and then when it's time to get married, you want to be treated as if you are a virgin under customary traditional laws, and this man must come and pay a full bride price as if you are a virgin. You're not. You come in with children from a previous relationship, etc. Even under religious prescriptions, where Christianity, Islam, Judaism are saying that you will remain a virgin, both man and woman, until you get married. People are going around sleeping with whomever they want because they are free, because they are liberal. But then when it suits them religiously, they want to be recognized under God and the church and the mosque and the synagogue, etc., as if they are virgins, when they have not repented for their sins under religious prescription and cleansed themselves to say, I'm coming as a new purity. They go in and religiously sin with their eyes wide open, but want to be respected as if they are pure under religious doctrine. We need to have these conversations, not because someone is right or wrong, but because we are progressive, moving human beings. And what worked in the past at a certain time may not work now. So what works for you? Which belief system works for you? If it is Islam, follow Islamic prescriptions. If it is Christianity, do the same. If you are a traditional Zulu man, a traditional Bedi woman, follow prescription. But once you start double dipping in various things and you pick and choose what works for you, you are disrespecting whatever your belief system is. And if you want to get married under customary, why then are you also getting married in the church? Why are you then also signing legally? Because it means that you don't actually have a straight belief system. And if you want your belief system to progress, go and speak with your kings and your chiefs and say, we would like to change the Xhosa culture. We would like to move forward and we would like it to be captured so that we are not being bullied by the legal systems that were brought on by the Europeans as Africans, as an example. These are very, very important conversations because, as I said, I believe the cornerstone to any strong progressive society is the individual and the family structure. How are you ruling and leading and guiding yourself? How are you ruling and leading and guiding and heading your families? What structure do you and your partner have? What structure do you and your partners have? Do you believe in polygamy, polygyny, polyandry? Are you in open relationships? Are you polyamorous? Are you bisexual? Are you homosexual? Do you believe in transgenderism? Do you believe in a Nigerian man marrying a South African woman, or a South African man marrying an Israeli woman, or a Spanish woman marrying a Zimbabwe? What do you believe in? What makes sense to you so that you can have your belief system and you can have a union that works for you? And then it will transcend further and you can say, this is how we treat children when we are no longer together. This is how we treat children when we're raising them. This is how we treat money. Do we get a will? Do we maybe put things under a trust? Do we maybe register a company? Do I buy things for my wife in her name so that if I pass on, she doesn't have to deal with estate matters and estate duties, etc.? Let's have these fundamental conversations. I speak about financial literacy. I speak about understanding the law. Ignorance is very expensive. It makes you have to pay lawyers and tax advisors and all these other people when you could be educating yourself. Let's learn about politics. Let's learn about the law. And let's learn how to run better social spaces. The family structure. You do not need to be married. Contrary to what you might be thinking, you do not need to be married today under the Constitution and the law to move in with your partner that you love, that you've committed to, and decide maturely as adults, we will have children and raise them under this way. There is no law that forces you to go and get married. But if you want to get married, is it under religion? Is it under tradition and customs? Is it just under legal to manage your properties and your children if you get divorced? And what are the implications of these things? Let us have these conversations because they have a huge implication in the gender wars that we have today. They have huge implication in some of the racial wars we have today, where if you are a Jewish woman, are you allowed under the Jewish faith to go and marry a Muslim man? Or do one of you have to convert? If you are a Sutu woman, is it fine for you to go and marry a Rastafarian man? What are the prescriptions and how do you move so that when your families come together, you guys understand how the children are going to be raised, how the assets and the properties are going to be raised, whether Ilobola will be paid or not, who is the head of the household? Is the woman allowed to have more partners? Is the man allowed to have more partners? So that you move into something understanding exactly what you're getting yourself into. Pin you all the black pen. Have a great and blessed day. And I look forward to hearing some of your comments, your suggestions. Please go on the internet. Let your voice be heard. Whether you agree, disagree, whether you have different thoughts, whether you have new models, something like penalism, maybe you have something that would work for society in a better way. Have a great day. Hoop julle almal gaan goed en julle is lekker. Ngiyathemba ukuthi nonke niyaphila emakhaya. Nibusiswe, niphile. Nibuse nonke niyabantu. Cheers.